Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lunch table. My name's Evan. Today I'm joined with Nick, Zach, and Peyton. And today we're going to be doing our NFL all-time Mount Rushmore defensive edition. We did offensive edition earlier. You should go check that one out. If you haven't, it's a good one. And so today, we're doing the defense. But before we begin, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at lunchtable.takes. And make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And we'll throw it to Peyton first. Who is your greatest defensive end of all time?
I think this pick's a no-brainer. I think defensive end is the easiest of these positions to rank because really at the end of the day, the sack is king with this position. It's got to be Reggie White, number one. Does anyone really disagree with that?
I got Reggie White.
Legendary defensive end, more sacks than games played in almost every season he played, I think except two.
Literally pick up O-linemen.
Yeah. In a strike-shortened season where I think he played like 10 games, 11 games, he had a 20-sack season. Unreal player. He's the GOAT at that position.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
that is undebatable.
Yeah. He is the Minister of Defense.
Minister of Defense. I named my dog after him.
Nice.
Yeah. He's
Is
the
that
GOAT.
actually why you named your dog?
Yep,
Reggie?
that's why he's
I didn't know
Reggie.
that until right now.
That's why he's Reggie.
Reggie's origin.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
That's
He
why.
is the Minister of Defense.
It literally says in here, it says he was a master of the swim move, the bull rush, and the forearm shiver, which is basically all techniques used for defensive linemen.
Yeah.
He was strong. He was fast. He did everything right.
Yeah. I was watching, when I was doing some research for this, I was watching some highlights, and there's literally one where the quarterback went to throw the ball, he tackled him, took the ball out of his hand, and ran it for a touchdown. I was like, oh my gosh.
He's a freak.
And he was just throwing
I just like watching him when he would just like one arm just take like just
he was
slow,
just
like,
putting
offensive
tackles onto the
tackles.
ground left and right. Like double
Yeah.
team, you could it wasn't working on him. Like there's nothing you could
Have you guys seen the top 100 NFL players videos they put out on YouTube? a while ago? There's a clip of Reggie White forklifting Larry Allen with one hand.
Yeah, that's what I was
have
talking. That's
seen
what I
that.
was talking
It's
about.
insane.
And Larry Allen's probably the best tackle to ever play.
Guard,
one of
yeah.
them, or guard, yeah.
Yeah.
And he just like,
One arm.
Moves him with one
Just
arm.
got rid of it.
yeah.
That kind of says all you need to know about him.
Yeah, he had 198 sacks in 15 seasons.
13-time Pro Bowler
Yeah.
in 15 seasons.
Yeah.
Didn't he have a season where he only played 12 games and had like 20 sacks? Is
That was
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
Short by his strikes.
Yeah.
strike year. Yeah, he won the Super Bowl. He has the most sacks in the Super Bowl with three-time Defensive Player of the Year for the NFC, and two-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
And he was an ordained minister.
There you go.
That's really funny.
Yeah, Reggie White is he's the definition of a mauler.
He was a guy. I'll tell you that.
He was a guy. Well, so this one, just like the quarterbacks, is pretty unanimous number one.
Yeah, I think everybody has Reggie White.
So we'll go
Who's your two?
to number two.
Number two, this might be recency bias, but I'm just going to go ahead and put J.J. Watt already. Insanely dominant defensive end, and he played the position perfectly. Not only did he get a ton of sacks, like multiple 20-sack seasons, tons of TFLs. He would stuff at the line of scrimmage insanely well, take on double teams. Whole 9 yards, great defensive end. I think he was nearly perfect his whole career. So I have J.J. Watt, number two.
Nice. I've got Bruce Smith at number two. I think, like you said, the sack is king. He's the all-time NFL sack leader. Again, it's just a pure unit on
I think he had
the defensive end.
100 and like 200 sacks, right?
He's the all-time NFL sack leader.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
The only real knock on him is that he never won a ring. But
He played for
That's
Buffalo.
not a defensive player.
He played for
it's
the
not
Bills,
a defensive
man.
player responsibility.
Was he on?
Actually, he was on the Bills team that went to
When
four
they
straight,
yeah,
though,
that
wasn't
was
he?
him.
Yeah.
He was the
That's
anchor of those
unfortunate.
teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was
Dude,
a,
that
he
team
was a
was
legend. Yeah.
How they didn't win one, I don't know.
Really,
didn't win one out
really
of four.
freaking good too.
Yeah. I also have Bruce Smith. Nick said all-time sack leader. He has the NFL record for most seasons with double-digit sacks at 13.
Crazy.
And he played his entire career in a 3-4 system, and has that kind of numbers.
Yeah.
Which like nowadays 3-4, you bring a linebacker down as like an edge, and so it's a little bit harder. Like kind of the edge just kind of not
attention on him.
Yeah, not as good as it once was, but I mean, super impressive. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 11-time Pro Bowler, been to 4 Super Bowls, but lost all of them sadly.
8-time first-team All-Pro.
Yeah. I think
he's a legend.
Yeah, he's great.
Hall of Famer.
No one really compares to like the longevity at the position.
No.
Oh yeah,
probably won't happen again either.
Yeah, I mean, have double-digit sacks for 13 seasons.
That's absurd.
For sure.
Dominated for like his entire career from start to finish. I have him at 2.
I think he has more. How long did J.J. Watt play in the league? Because he just retired, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't this year,
think
right?
he was
This year, last year.
Yeah, he has more seasons with double-digit sacks than J.J. Watt's entire career length. So like,
yeah, that is.
I am just
actually
J.J. Watt is the perfect defensive end. I just had to put him at number 2.
That's a foul.
Yeah, I wanted to have J.J. Watt on here, but I just these guys I couldn't.
You don't have him at all?
No. I couldn't
That's
with the other
kinda
guys.
crazy. That's kind of crazy. Okay.
Number 3.
I got Bruce Smith, number 3. We already covered him. Insane longevity of the position. Anchored 4 Super Bowl not winning teams. Legend of the sport. It's already been covered.
Anchored the defense of those teams.
Yeah.
That is pretty sad that they went down. It's impressive though to go to 4 consecutive Super Bowls.
yes, not really the reason why they lost those games.
No,
Yeah.
he was.
One of them was the kicker.
Obviously not him.
Yeah, one of them
He
was Scott.
anchored the defense.
One of them was Scott Norwood, and the other 3 were kind of just a combination of
A team
everything.
effort.
The Cowboys.
The
They ran
Cowboys,
into the
yeah.
loaded
The Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys and the Redskins, now the Commanders.
It wasn't
Yeah.
him though. He was nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you take Reggie White out of the question, he has a case to be the best of all time.
Absolutely.
For sure. No, you're up at 3. Yeah,
I'll
my
go
bad.
for 3. At 3, I have Deacon Jones, LA guy. 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Hall of Famer, obviously. He was coined with the term sacking the quarterback.
Yeah,
Yep.
I did.
Fun
see,
fact.
Yep.
He's 3rd all-time in sacks, on career sacks with 173.5. He was nicknamed the Secretary of Defense after he averaged over 20 sacks per season during a 5-year stretch from
That
64 to
is just
68.
ridiculous. No one does that anymore. Like
No.
nobody, not even like T.J. Watt. Like nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just absurd.
Yeah, I mean, he was super fast for his size, just an all-around beast of a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had like I said, from 64 to 68, he had 22 sacks, 19, 16, 21, 22, and 15. So, like,
ridiculous.
he had double-digit sacks for almost every year he played.
Yeah.
So he was just, at his peak, he was just unreal. And I think he has a couple...
8 Pro Bowls.
Yeah,
He's got 8 Pro Bowls.
5-time All-Pro.
Yeah, third in sacks, behind the other 2 guys that we already have.
Smith and Reggie White.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think
he's easily deserving of the 3 spot.
absolutely.
I'm gonna cut you, Nick, but he's my 3 too.
Yeah,
just to bounce that.
he's also my 3.
Yeah.
Just 3rd all-time in sacks, revolutionized the defensive end
He
position for his
sacked the
time.
quarterback. And that's where it came from. He sacked the quarterback.
I think you got to put some respect on his name. You covered everything that he did.
Yeah.
Revolutionary at his position for his time. Yeah, that's about it. You covered all of it in terms of him.
Yeah.
All right, and 4th.
For 4.
Turn to 4.
I had a really hard time choosing between my last 2. I'm just going to mention them both. I have Michael Strahan here, but also Deacon Jones. I think Deacon Jones played against less sophisticated offensive line coverages for the quarterback. I think that inflated his sack numbers. Obviously, he's a legend, invented the sack. But I think the other guys are way more skilled, had better careers, in my opinion. Michael Strahan had a great peak, most sacks in a season, 22 and a half.
Which is still the record, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Broken.
Yep.
Who got close to breaking
Wasn't
it for
it
the
TJ?
Chiefs a few years back?
I don't think
Derek Thomas.
It might
TJ
have been.
came close. TJ Watt came
TJ
close.
got 22.
I don't think there was a Chiefs guy though. That I recall.
have been.
I think
There might have been a while ago, but I know TJ Watt was close though.
He's the most recent.
I feel
Justin,
like
it was
there's a-
Justin Houston. He was half a sack shy of time.
Well, so was T.J. Watt with 22.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Justin Houston.
Justin.
Got it right
yeah,
here.
he was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin Houston was really good in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think T.J. Watt is honestly like.
T.J. Watt tied the record.
I was gonna say, he tied it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I think him and Micah Parsons, I think, are the only two guys that we have in the league right now that are like, I would say, comparable to some of these guys. Honestly, I mean,
Vaughn,
Myles Garrett, maybe.
Miles Garrett could be.
Get up there.
I don't know about Vaughn right now. Prime Vaughn.
Vaughn was
Prime
really
Vaughn.
Plays the
dominant.
Bengals. He looks like
Prime
freaking
Vaughn,
prime
yes.
Reggie White. So.
Miles Garrett, probably. Prime Vaughn, and then, yeah, that's probably about
It's
it.
like
honestly.
we said, like off camera, like the defensive end position is like completely changed now.
It has.
We
Because
have great edge rushers.
two of the guys I mentioned are edge.
Yeah,
There's
Shaq
Barrett's a great edge right now. Chandler Jones, great edge.
yeah. So a lot
He
of
had
the
a
best
19
like
sack season or something.
yeah,
A lot of the sack
guys are
numbers
all,
goes
like,
to edge guys
yeah,
instead of ends
all, like,
now.
edge guys.
But Miles Garrett's freaking nasty though.
Yeah,
He's a
I told
stud.
Nick. I said every time he plays against the Bengals, dude looks like prime. Dude looks like Reggie White. Like
Him and T.J. Watt
Oh my
too,
gosh,
both
dude.
of them. They
him
just
against
absolutely
him
go off.
the Halloween game. Oh my gosh, dude, just
Yeah, that was a scary game to watch.
destroyed everybody. It was not fun.
I was just hoping to get out of there healthy at that point, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Do you have anything else to say about your honorable mentions or?
Strahan, did he have one or two Super Bowls with the Giants? Was he there
He
for the
had
early
one.
one?
Strahan,
Yeah, he had one.
He was on
anchored that
the
defense.
he was on the team that took down the 16-0 Patriots, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
Legend.
At 4, I have J.J. Watt.
Okay.
He finished with 114 and a half sacks in his career. He's second in the NFL in tackles for loss at 195. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He was a MVP runner-up in 2014. 5-time All-Pro, 5-time
Should've
Pro
won it.
Bowler. He had his second season in the league. He had 20 sacks. He had over 20. He had 20 and a half sacks. And like you said, he's like when you think of defensive end, like he's the model for that.
He was on a tear
Yeah.
earlier on in his
mean,
career.
him and his
He honestly did fall off the past like year or two.
Well, yeah, once he
was
got
not
to the
near-
Cardinals,
when he got to the Cardinals,
because he had some injuries.
Yeah, that's
He
really
started-
late in
he
his
started
career, though.
getting-
But I mean, his last season in the NFL, he had 12 and a half sacks.
Yeah.
which
He
is
started-
elite
for a
still.
33-year-old
Which is
like
still
that has
elite.
been banged up for
Yeah.
the latter half of his career.
started
It's
getting-
pretty good.
He started having injuries about
It's an injury bug.
It was really like the second he left Houston is when it got bad.
Yeah.
for him. But I mean,
His play style did not lend itself to longevity.
yeah, he's
So.
just one of those hard-nosed, like tough guys who's just gonna just beat you one-on-one. And
Beat you 2-on-1 too.
I mean, like he like those old Texans defense with like Brian Cushing and him, like those are just
Clowney.
like and Clowney, like those guys were just like hard-nosed like footballers, you know. And like
Yeah,
like
man,
I've
hard-nosed
watched videos of
footballers, brother.
like Brian Cushing just like getting a helmet slapped in his face and continuing to fight the guy. Like they're just bad dudes. So yeah, that's why I think JJ Watt's at 4.
Yeah, I've got J.J. Watt at 4 too. We've had the pleasure of watching his entire career on real time, like NFL Sundays to my family, and he was just a freak. Like you said, perfect defensive end. You covered him earlier when you had him at 2. I have him below all the other guys just because of longevity. He was only really top tier for like 9 of his 12 seasons in the league. But at his apex, he was one of the best defensive ends ever. So I feel like I have to put him on the Mount Rushmore somewhere. But yeah, 5 would be Strahan. It was tough picking between the two. I've seen more of J.J. Watt on film. So
I had the same issue you did. It was between Strahan and Watt, but I went with Strahan. So, and I mean, we've covered both of those guys. So.
That's interesting. Why Strahan over what?
I don't know. Honestly, when I was researching both of them, it was the sack number that did it for me. Strahan has
Sack number.
Strahan has 141 sacks, and Watt had. I don't even know if he had 100. It was like 90 something, wasn't it?
Look,
Not sure.
Like that was honestly what did it for me
he
because like
finished with where is it? 114 and a half sacks.
114.
It's still a large discrepancy, though. Like, that's
That's
almost
like a 30 sack
two
difference.
seasons worth of sacks
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
defensive end.
So, I mean, that was what it did for me, because I did want to put Watt on here, but when I mean, like you said earlier, the sack is the leading stat for these guys.
Yeah.
So when I honestly was leaning to Watt, but what the factor was, I looked at both of them and I saw Strahan had like 30 some odd more sacks, and I was like,
Yeah.
I gotta go with Strahan here.
It's just the dominance.
And I mean,
really
and,
pushed
you know,
the edge for me.
I think I think I know Super Bowl is a team stat, but Strahan was a huge part in that Super Bowl for the Giants defensively. So I mean, I don't know. That was why I picked Strahan, but you have to give a shout out to Watt though, because when he was in his prime, he was something else for sure.
I think certainly Strahan was a really consistent guy, but J.J. Watt was a terror on the line that Strahan was not, and that's
You
what
had
happened
to
with that
know
for
where
me.
he was at on every single play.
Yeah.
Not saying that you didn't know where Strahan had to be, but
Yeah.
if you didn't have two guys on J.J. Watt, you had a decent chance of getting pressure in the backfield every single play
Yeah.
when he was at his apex. And I mean, 5 touchdowns as a defensive player in 2014.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
I mean, in 2018, he had 7 forced fumbles.
Yeah. Like, that's ridiculous.
Even old man J.J. stuffed the line really well too.
Yeah.
It was just 12 and a half sacks, like you said too.
It was cool, like, going back and, like, watching film of these guys and just seeing how little time the quarterbacks had to, like, throw the ball. Like, if you hesitated for a second against Reggie White or Bruce Smith, like, you were on the ground.
I think Reggie White, Bruce Smith, JJ, I think everyone who grows up playing football and is playing defensive end tries to model their game after those 3 guys.
Yeah.
Above anyone else by far, I think.
Yeah, when you're talking names, for sure. All right. Any other honorable mentions that you mentioned? Strahan. Any other ones that you can think of?
We'll see how these like modern edge rusher guys' careers pan out by the end. I'm sure some of them could work their way up these lists.
They stay around for a long time, for
Yeah.
sure. Although the NFL is becoming increasingly offensive-oriented.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Parsons and Watt will get up there.
The defensive end is becoming more and more of a sack specialist.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll see those numbers go up and up and up for these guys.
Yeah. We'll see how long Strahan's record stays.
It's already been tied.
Yeah. By J.J. Watt's brother, TJ. All right, let's move on to the interior defensive line with the defensive tackles. Peyton, who's your best defensive tackle?
Well, this is an old school pick, but I feel like I have to do it. I think Mean Joe Green is the GOAT of the tackle. Steel Curtain was an impossible defense to score on, not just because of him, I know. But he was the first and the best on that defense. The whole team was built around him. He would take double teams so his teammates could get more stats as well. The tough thing about D tackle is there's only one D tackle in history that gets stats. He's going to be on here. I'm sure some of you guys have been. But D tackle, you have to kind of watch to know their impact on the game. And I think Mean Green is the best ever.
My number one, I have Aaron Donald. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. 9-time Pro Bowler, 7-time All-Pro, Super Bowl champ, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. He has over 100 sacks in his career, 103 to be exact. He's the only defensive tackle ever to have a 20-sack season. He's just like an absolute unit on the defensive line.
I don't know if I've ever seen a defensive player take over a game like he can.
No.
Like he just Super Bowl single-handedly won the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean maybe not single-handedly because Von Miller helped too, but Aaron Donald took over the game.
Yeah.
Like he's just that player that it's like in a close tough game, you're just waiting for him. It's like, all right, when's Aaron Donald gonna make the play here? When it's gonna happen, and it's just like, all right, he's gonna, Aaron Donald's gonna make the play.
Yeah.
I've never seen I don't know if I've seen a defensive lineman like that for a while now.
I think he's one of the most unstoppable forces that we've
I
seen.
mean, he
on the
literally
defensive line.
We'll talk about that. I have some comments on that.
You can't stop him at all. And the stats he racks up as a tackle is just absurd too. Because, like you said, tackles don't really get a lot of stats.
Yeah. I also have Aaron Donald at 1. The difference between him and, I mean Joe Green it too. The difference between the two for me was I feel like Aaron Donald did more with less throughout the entirety of his career. Like you alluded to, it wasn't just Mean Joe Green on that defense. I mean, they had Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Rod Woodson. Like that entire defense was unbelievable. Arguably the best defense in NFL history. And I feel like you alluded to, I haven't seen a defensive player take over the game, especially at that position the way Aaron Donald can. And to do it in today's NFL makes it all the more impressive to me. And like you alluded to, his resume, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Was it 8 or 9-time Pro Bowler?
I think it's 9.
Yeah, countless first-team All-Pros. Like
the man, after they won, now these arguments were stupid, but like after they won the Super Bowl, people were like questioning, is he the best defensive player of all time?
Yeah,
they were saying
It's kinda ridiculous.
it's a dumb argument.
That was
but, like,
recency bias. But
it's a dumb argument, but like a lot of people were saying that though. Like the dude's wild as a defensive tackle. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that Aaron Donald did more with less at that position, so I have him over. I have him at my one.
I considered him at number 1, and here's why I didn't. He is the first of this like new school D tackle where they are sack specialists, and he's really good at it because he's small and he's really fast for a D tackle. I know he's huge, but the problem is he gets eaten up for lunch by these really big physical guards. That's the problem. Like you watch him play a game against Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson, he gets eaten alive in the trenches, and I think especially for D tackle, you need to be able to hold your ground in the middle and stop the run. I just like for the GOAT of the spot, I think you have to be complete in every phase of the game at that position. I know he beats a lot of dudes in one-on-ones up front. He's a great pass rusher. I have him at number 2. No one's even close to him in that phase of the game, but I think he just was not as complete as Mean Joe Green.
He isn't quite as strong in the run, so I will give you that. But I mean, I have him at 1. I just think what he's done is undeniable. It's just I personally, I mean, obviously I'm a lot younger. I haven't even seen most of these guys on this list play personally, but I mean, for me, I haven't seen anybody do what he does. Like defense.
Yeah, he's the first. Yeah, it's unprecedented what he's done.
I've seen a lot of
a defensive player in general just absolutely take over a game.
Yeah.
We're going to see more and more players that play like him.
Yeah.
He's a revolutionary player.
Yeah, defensive tackles and interior D linemen are going to model their game after Aaron Donald for the next 20, 30 years.
For sure.
The problem with him is the pressure is right in the middle. The pass rush is right in the middle. The quarterback has to look right at him. It's impossible to deal with. So
yeah, I've seen a lot of Mean Joe Green highlights because my dad's kind of older, so he like when we've had free times, he's shown me because he grew up watching those teams. He hit the impact he would have, like you said, run stopping and just in terms of actual presence on the D line is undeniable. But like you said, in a era of the NFL that's becoming more quarterback and pass oriented, I feel like QB pressure is infinitely more important now. And I've seen like Aaron Donald do more with less, so that's why I have him at 1.
I mean, I have Mean Joe Green at 2.
Yeah, I think you have Donald at 2, and we all have Mean Joe Green at 2.
yeah, that's fair.
But
yeah.
I mean, I understand the pick.
Both
It's
have,
close for me.
Both have good arguments.
It is very close.
It's close. Both have good arguments. I mean, I do see what you're saying.
It's just what you
about Aaron
hold
Donald
more.
in the run game.
Yeah,
I see that point.
it is a weakness in his game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not known really.
He's not known for the run game, but I mean the NFL is also not known for the run game. Right
He
now.
is a sack specialist, though, so I don't know if that's a knock really against him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say it's a knock, but I would say that he
Because
is.
like,
he is
they don't
weaker in
coach
the
him
run
to do
game,
that.
though.
He runs upfield.
Yeah, he's weaker in the run game.
Yeah, he's literally not coached to do that. So I don't know. A lot of these really elite like interior O linemen do beat up on him. I think we should mention that if we're gonna go, he's unstoppable. No one can stop him. It happens when he plays elite guards and centers. You see it happen.
Specifically in the run game, I would say. I would say if we're talking in the pass game, he's still pretty dominant.
Maybe. I remember watching a Colts Rams game and seeing him
Yeah,
just
it
get
was a couple
shut
years
down.
ago, and he got shut down for most of that game.
Yeah.
Was that Quentin Nelson's best?
It was a
lineman in the
it
NFL
was a
season?
combination of a multitude of things. I mean, that was when they still had Costanzo and Ryan Kelly at center, and they all just kind of pushed the line to the side. Aaron Donald was lined
I mean,
up
if you're
on.
gonna triple team the guy,
He
They didn't
He was
triple
getting
team
one on
him.
one.
Yeah.
He was getting plenty of one.
They just had play designs to where they would either shift the entire line towards Aaron Donald, so he'd have to, if you got around like Quentin Nelson, Costanzo would be right there or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they would just double team him. He
Well,
wasn't super
that's
effective
kind of
in
like
that
what
game.
you have to do.
Yeah.
Because you can't if you do leave him.
Yeah.
If you try to leave him 1-on-1, he's probably gonna win.
Yeah, Colts still lost that game though. So
Of course.
yeah, that was the year the Rams won the Super Bowl, and they only lost by 3. So
That was the Colts' good year, though.
no, it wasn't. The year before,
wasn't?
No, that was the
the
Carson Wentz collapse.
It was the year.
Was that year? That was the year where they went on the road and beat the Cardinals on Christmas Day, and I was like, "We're making a deep playoff run. This is the year," and then they just completely fell apart. The last
When
2
was
weeks of the
Jonathan
season.
Taylor's year then?
That was that year. But the year before, they had Phillip Rivers, and they went 11-5 and whatnot.
They were a bad team, but they had good fantasy stats.
Yeah.
I thought the Colts were. Oh no, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not up
The year
on the
before,
Colts
their
history.
roster was loaded outside of quarterback.
See, I thought didn't they went 8-9 or something?
They went 9-8.
9-8. Yeah, see, it was 9-8. That's not bad. I thought they had a solid year that year.
Well, yeah, but if you apply the context of they needed to win one game to make a wild card, and they lost
Yeah,
to
that
the
was
Raiders,
Jag-
and the worst
or-
team in the league,
Yeah.
by 15 on
Yeah,
the road,
yeah.
then
Well, that's not great, but altogether, it was a solid year for them.
and the year before they made the playoffs, so
Yeah.
I would say that year was a letdown, and then you saw what happened. the
I
year
think
after.
this
So,
year was the definition of a letdown.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it more than I already have. Let's continue.
Right, so we all have either Aaron Donald or Joe Green at 1 and 2.
Those two are locks for 1 and 2.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we'll move on to 3. Peyton, who you got at 3?
I think I'm conflicted on these last two. I think I'm just going to go with Warren Sapp, though. Great player on one of the greatest NFL defenses of all time. Played the run really well. Got a lot of sacks also. I'm not sure how many. I'm sorry, Evan. I didn't do a lot of research. But
Any what?
how many sacks he got? He got sacks though. Not as many as Aaron Donald, but I think he had 12 sack seasons or something like that.
His highest sack season was 16 and a half,
Yeah, which is
and he ended his career with 96 and a half sacks.
yeah. He was doing that in the early 2000s, and also was a destroyer, a brick wall at the front. I have him at number 3.
At number 3 for me, I have Alan Page, member of the Purple People Eaters,
Vikings, baby.
the old Vikings. 9-time Pro Bowler, 9-time All-Pro, NFL champion in '69, 2-time NFC Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He won the MVP in 1971. 148 and a half career sacks, which would rank most all-time as by a defensive tackle if sacks were counted as an official stat during his era, but they were not. So he's 8th all-time, regardless of position at sacks. But, he was a key part of that Purple People Eaters defense, which with the mid-'80s Bears is one of the best defenses we've seen. So I think 3 is a solid spot for him.
So
Yeah, I've also got Alan Page at 3. I think the big thing for me is he was the first defensive player to ever win NFL MVP. And like you said, 148 and a half career sacks if they counted it at the time. It's kind of like the Will thing where they didn't record blocks until after he retired. Because everyone knows if they recorded blocks when he was in the NBA,
That record would be untouchable.
yeah, he wouldn't. It wouldn't have even been close. But like I said, another integral member of one of the best defenses in NFL history. They kind of get overshadowed because of how dominant the Steelers were. But I mean, the Purple People Eaters were really freaking good too. And Alan Page was the stalwart of that. So I think 3 is a good spot for Alan Page.
Yeah, I got him there too. I think it's just the MVP. Like that is just crazy.
I don't know how many defensive
winning-
players have won MVP at all.
But winning it as a defensive tackle is even more
I
crazy.
can only think of 2.
Like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we'll talk about the other one here in a second.
Yeah, I have that guy at 4. So, obviously, a great player. Yeah, I just personally would rather have Warren Sapp up front.
I honestly forgot about Warren Sapp.
Warren Sapp's a beast.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
I didn't even.
I have Warren Sapp at 4. It was between him and Bob Lilly. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen a single tape of Bob Lilly. And I've watched a ton of Warren Sapp. So
I have Bob Lilly at 4.
Yeah.
But, I mean, disclaimer, like, I think none of us have seen a lot of these guys play that much, so it's kind of...
I watched,
call us casuals, but I haven't watched a single game of Bob Lilly in my NFL life.
Yeah, so I have him at 4, 11-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion. They called him Mr. Cowboy. I think he was with the 70s Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Warren Sapp was a beast.
Yeah.
Warren Sapp was
Warren
an
Sapp
absolute
was my
animal.
honorable mention because I honestly didn't even think of that.
Sorry. He was just a destroyer up
Yeah,
front.
I honestly forgot he was a defensive tackle. I didn't watch much football back then. Back in Warren
Yeah, I don't
Sapp's
think any
You
of
were
us
one.
we were all.
I also haven't gone back and watched Warren Sapp's film. Yeah. But at 4 I have Bob Lilly as well. 9-time All-Pro, 11-time Pro Bowler. I mean, he played in the late 60s, early 70s. So that's a little bit out of our time, but
Yeah, just a
little bit.
Just a
out
little
of
bit. Yeah.
but he played every single game in his entire career except one. He missed one game in 14 of his seasons.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He was a 7-time All-Pro, 1 Defensive Player of the Year. He has 95.5 career sacks. I think, like you said, they call him Mr. Cowboy. He was part of that dominant Cowboys defense there in the late 60s. So yeah, I have him at 4.
The Cowboys have had Aikman, Smith, Irvin, all these other guys, and they don't call them Mr. Cowboy. They call this guy Mr. Cowboy.
Yeah, that's true. He was very fast and agile, it says, for his position. So. Wouldn't really know. I watched the NFL 100 video on him right before we started this, so I watched a little bit of it. It's like 5 minutes.
Those are great videos.
Yeah.
They are great videos.
I
They need to update it.
Yeah,
but-
they do.
They haven't done them in a while.
Yeah,
Right?
it's been like over a decade.
I think Tom Brady's like
2 or 3.
no, he's like 7th on that.
Or whatever. Yeah, isn't Peyton Manning ranked higher
Yeah.
than him?
That needs to be.
It's a little bit.
Tom Brady's like doubled.
It's a little bit out there.
Tom Brady's like doubled his ring count since then.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for the defensive tackles, right?
That calls it.
All right, moving on to the linebackers. This one was a little bit difficult because we had to figure out where we would place like the edge rushers, and we decided that, and most lists that I saw, and we all decided that we'd put them under the linebackers because it's like we mentioned earlier, like the way that defenses are run now is different, with more linebackers being more edge guys like T.J. Watt and Micah Parsons, Vaughn Miller, like those types of guys.
Yeah.
So who do you have at number 1? I think this one is probably the most
Better not hear
obvious.
anyone argue. It's Lawrence Taylor. This is the most complete defensive player of all time. He won the MVP. He was elite in coverage as well. He could blow up any lineman anywhere on the field. You had to account for him every play, or he was going to destroy you. Some would put him as the best player of all time, and it's hard to argue. Lawrence Taylor, he made every left tackle in the NFL should thank Lawrence Taylor for the money they have.
Yeah.
Because he made them one of the
Millions.
most millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars.
There's a reason they call the left tackle the most valuable position in the NFL.
Yeah. It's
They
because
had to
of
go
this guy.
against Lawrence Taylor every day.
He's the reason left tackles exploded in size after that point. Like, this guy changed the game. He's number 1. I don't want to hear anything else.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Best
Lawrence
defensive player of all time,
Yep.
by far,
Yep.
in my opinion.
absolutely.
He could do everything.
Yeah. If you haven't watched tape of Lawrence Taylor, are you
Yeah.
really an NFL fan?
Smoked
his-
a bunch of crack and then he
And
just
then terrorized
destroyed
offensive
everyone.
lines.
Yeah.
His tape is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's undoubtedly the best defensive player NFL history. And some people say he could be even the
Best
best
NFL
player.
player.
Best
Ever.
NFL player. I mean, 10-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champ. Is the second defensive player to win MVP. Just all around masterclass his entire career. I remember one time we were on the bus heading to an away game or whatever, and my uncle sent me a video of Lawrence Taylor. He was like, just a little extra motivation for you. And I was like, all right. So like,
we were sitting by each other on that ride.
yeah.
I remember that.
So I got a whole because he was saying how like Lawrence Taylor inspired.
I think
he was nasty,
If
man.
you-
I enjoyed watching him as a edge rusher get pick sixes.
Yeah.
Yes. Highlights.
If you ask if you ask any NFL fan, any real NFL fan, the first player you think of when you think of the National Football League, Lawrence Taylor is up there.
Yeah.
In terms of physicality, just what the human body can do, and just absolute explosiveness and unreal talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Lawrence Taylor is up there for me.
Like we talked about, like Calvin Johnson on the last one. Like Lawrence Taylor is one of those guys that
Lawrence
just
Taylor
looks
was
like
the
he should be in
perfect
Madden.
defensive football player.
Yeah, like he just looks like a guy that should be in Madden. Like you just give a random dude like all 99 stats, put him at linebacker, and say
That's
screw it.
pretty
Like
much
that's
all
basically what Lawrence Taylor
He
was.
is literally the perfect defensive player at every single
Yeah.
defensive position.
And like a ton of people have modeled their game.
Yeah, like
after
you
him.
said, the crazy thing.
There's a whole new position based
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Like
invented a
Von
new
Miller,
position.
Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, all of
Yeah.
those guys came from him.
Yeah.
There's a whole new position just because of him.
Yeah, like you said, he made left tackles millions of
Yeah.
dollars. Like,
Yeah, he ended his career with 142 sacks.
Yeah,
He had 20 sacks in 1986, which is when he won MVP.
Unreal.
So yeah,
Number one.
undoubtedly number one.
that was probably the easiest one on this whole defensive list here.
Yeah, absolutely.
That one, and I mean, for me personally, Aaron Donald was pretty easy, but Lawrence Taylor was like, I was like,
it
I
was
think-
no brainer.
DB one's pretty easy too.
I don't know. I feel like you probably have something different than I do, but we'll see.
DB's. Like,
DB wasn't. I
that
would
took
say-
me a
I
while.
would
That
say
took me a
DB
while.
DB took me a bit.
If we're combining safety and corner into one thing and it's DB, I think there's only one right choice. We'll get to that.
We'll see who it is.
Yeah.
But first, we'll go on to number 2. Peyton, who's your second best linebacker behind the.
We're going Ray Lewis. Dominant force. Everyone knows about Ray Lewis.
Yeah, that's not a hard one either. Right?
that's
we all probably.
I have
Yeah.
Ray Lewis too.
Yeah, that's not a very
The
hard
ideal Mike linebacker.
one. He was a mean man.
Yeah. The goat of his position, Mike linebacker.
He just like genuinely would terrify people. Like people
Yeah.
were scared to play him. Like
Yeah.
he would,
we all of us saw a lot of Ray Lewis's career.
he would genuinely strike fear into his opponents. Like fully.
Yeah, and like some of the moments of him like mic'd up is insane. Just like the way
You would have to play him, Terrell Suggs, and Ed Reed on the same defense. It's just like, what did you even do?
That was probably one of the best
Yeah.
defenses ever.
Yeah.
Too. Like,
You
some of the
stop- you
Steel
s-
They
Curtain,
never
like, that's
won.
up
They
there.
never won a ring until 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Wow.
The 2000 Ravens.
I mean, Terrell Suggs.
Yeah.
Terrell Suggs is one of like the best rushers as well. I mean, you got him to worry about, and then you got freaking Ray Lewis, and then you have
Ed Reed in the back.
Ed Reed in the back.
the best coverage safety.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, undoubtedly the greatest middle linebacker of all time.
yeah. For sure.
10-time All-Pro, 13-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl MVP, 2-time Super Bowl champ, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He holds the NFL record for most Pro Bowl selections by a middle linebacker at 13. I mean, there's just so much could be said about his
that
greatness.
was an easy one
I mean,
too, for
yeah,
sure.
that's just
There are very few players in NFL history that were true, like, intimidators. Like he was.
yeah.
Like, he's number 2. Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty
And that adds a part to the game too. Intimidation.
It does.
absolutely.
And he had that going for him.
Yeah, very much so.
So we're 2 for 2 here. So what do we got?
We are
for
2
you?
for 2 though.
I think it gets tougher from
Is
here
this
on
the
out.
first time that we've had 1 and 2 be the exact same?
Yeah, I think no. We probably had an offensive one the same too.
I think we had receiver, right?
Yeah, Jerry Randy.
Yeah, Jerry. Randy.
Yes, we had receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
But all the other ones have been different.
Yeah.
We like
Diversity.
Yeah.
We do like diversity.
Our like unofficial slogan is "Be different."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's our unofficial likes. All right, okay, number 3.
Number 3, like, there's so many guys you can put in 3 and 4. Like, I can think of like 5, but number 3, I'm just gonna go with my gut and say Mike Singletary. You could do Butkus. I just don't know about those old guy picks. I didn't watch them. Mike Singletary on the 85 Bears, probably the best player on the 85 Bears defense. Great player, played the Mike position very well. There's just not a lot to say about him. Just played really smart, great football. Yeah, Mike Singletary.
My 3 and 4 are. I don't know. Like you could flip.
It's interchangeable.
I mean, it really is for me personally. I have Jack Lambert at 3, and then I have Mike Singletary at 4. I think those are interchangeable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Jack Lambert. You know, he was part of the Steel Curtain, obviously, which we said earlier that was probably the best defense ever.
Yeah.
9-time Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowls. You know, Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was a huge part of him. And Mean Joe Green, they were both very big parts of that defense, especially with the
Mel Blount
in the box, like run wise, they were both very big parts of that defense. So that's why I had him at 3, but I have Singletary at 4, and I think either one of those two could go.
I mean, if you look at a picture of Jack Lambert, like, that's scary.
Iconic player. Iconic player.
Like, he's a scary looking dude.
Yeah. He was that guy that I would always send a picture to you guys, and that was him.
Yeah, you know, I can definitely see how he would intimidate the opposing team. I mean, you see him like on a blitz or something, just like up there, just like probably like growling at you or something
with no teeth,
and like a 1-bar face mask or 2-bar face, whatever it was. Like I would, if I'm like the center, I'm just like I'm keying that guy every single time. Like I gotta block that guy. At 3, I have Dick Butkus.
Yeah.
I mean, the award for best linebacker in high school, college, and the NFL is the Butkus Award. So I mean, I think you got to put him on there. I mean, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Hall of Famer. I mean, didn't he play offense as well?
Greatest draft of all time.
I think.
Also,
and he was a great coach. I mean, he did everything.
He did. I think he could be like the first like really great linebacker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. Because I mean, he played.
So I mean that makes sense. I mean, just personally, I would even take they're both Bears guys. I would take Singletary over him probably. I really like Mike Singletary.
I don't know how complete his game was. I know he was a force. Obviously, I don't know how smart of a linebacker he was.
I just really like Mike Singletary a lot, and I don't know if you guys have seen the 85 Bears documentary, the ESPN one.
I've not.
It's really cool.
I need to watch that.
That team was really cool, and Mike Singletary was hands down a leader of that whole team, not just the defense.
Absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of Mike Singletary.
Mm-hmm. Fun fact: Dick Butkus' nicknames are the Animal, the Enforcer, and the Maestro of Mayhem.
Yes, sir.
It's a pretty good list of nicknames. But yeah, I do get your point. I mean,
but I get yours too.
He played at an era where, like obviously we haven't seen, and it was a long time ago. But I mean, I think he still deserves to at least be up here somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I get your point too because I think he definitely deserves it because he really was like the first great linebacker. So I think that
he had 22 interceptions in his career.
It kind of says a lot when, like, every time someone talks about Dick Butkus, it sounds like they're talking about like a natural disaster, like a force.
I mean, Dick Butkus.
He was inevitable.
Like he played. Like he was a great coach. I mean, great linebacker. Played some offense as well. Like he kind of did it all. But I know we're just talking about him as like a player. But his entire resume
he's a well-rounded football person.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
Right, Nick.
I've got Jack Lambert at 3. I alluded to it earlier. Like Mean Joe Green had a lot more than just him on those Steelers defenses, and Jack Lambert was kind of 1B in terms of defensive ability. And like we alluded to, 9-time Pro Bowler, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 6-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time Super Bowl champion, defensive player, and defensive rookie of the year. And like you said, you can just look at a picture of this man and tremble with fear.
I'll put a picture of Jack Lambert.
Yeah. I mean, he was a mean looking
he
dude.
was.
I think he was the OG in terms of like a middle linebacker that strikes fear into just intimidation before
Yeah.
the ball was even snapped.
I would hate to play him.
Yeah. I just have a ton of respect for the Steelers, for the Steel Curtain, and Jack Lambert anchored the second level better than most other players in NFL history.
That was that's just such a nasty defense. Like, I mean, if you love old school smash mouth like football, like that's your defense for sure.
I mean, a lot of these teams we're saying had nasty defenses are in the AFC North. So.
Yeah.
The AFC
That's not a coincidence either.
No, the AFC North is genuinely known for smash mouth football.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
all four teams, like that's what they're known for.
Absolutely.
Like any time you play a team in the, I mean, the Bengals are the best team in the AFC North, and they play the worst team, the Browns. It's a tough game. It's a really tough game.
Absolutely. It's always a
Every
dogfight.
all four
No
of
pun
them, it's a tough
intended.
game.
Yeah, that was a good one. I like that.
But
I said it's always a dogfight. I said,
it is.
No, I said no pun
all
intended.
four of them, man. It's a dogfight.
I was meaning against the Browns.
Yeah.
All right, number 4.
Number 4.
I'm going to call an audible here. I had Seau originally. But okay, the thing with Jack Lambert is there was a linebacker on his team that was just as good as him, and that's Jack Ham. So I think for 4, I'll interchangeably put them both there. They both got a ton of stats, great Hall of Famers. Held up the steel curtain, Jack Lambert. Yeah, I think Jack Ham was more of a skilled linebacker. Jack Lambert was more of that sort of intimidator type of guy, more iconic player too.
Who did you have before you called the audible?
Seau,
Oh, okay.
Junior Seau. He's got tons of all-time level stats.
Yeah,
Of course.
Junior Seau was a monster.
My 4, I have Mike Singletary. Samurai Mike, if you will. That's his nickname. It's a pretty sweet nickname. But I was actually, funny thing, I was talking to my dad because I was trying to figure out who I should put at 4 because I felt like after the first 2 it got a little bit tricky for me. So I was like, all right, like out of like Jack Lambert, like Mike Singletary. He was like, Mike Singletary. I was like, why? He was like, dude, it's just insane. He was like, I was in high school and people who didn't watch football knew who Mike Singletary was.
Yeah.
Like he's like he played for that Bears team in '85, which is one of the best defensive units we've ever seen, if not the best. And I mean, he was the catalyst of that. And I mean, he was known for his signature stare. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but he would just stare into your soul on the other side. So like guys like Jack Lambert and like he was an intimidator.
Yeah.
And I mean, stats wise, 9-time All Pro, 10-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He was just amazing.
He was a 2-time champ. What was the other year he was a champion?
Oh, sorry, 1-time champ.
Oh, okay.
My bad. 1-time champ. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, but 1-time champ. Yeah,
It's deserving.
Mike Singletary.
Maybe.
That's who you had. You had Mike Singletary.
I had
before.
Mike at 4. I think we had the same 4. No, we didn't have the same 4. I had a different 3.
Yeah, you had Lambert.
Who do you got, Nick?
I've got Dick Butkus at 4. I think if we're talking about Mount Rushmore in terms of like revolutionizing
Yeah.
a position, Dick Butkus is kind of that guy at the linebacker position. And like you alluded to, the linebacker awards for the high school, college, and NFL level are called the Butkus Award for a reason. 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He was on the 60s and 70s All-Decade team, which I think is crazy for him only being in the league for
20.
his math. 20 seasons.
The whole decade.
That's not a lot of dudes have been on 2 all-decade teams.
He was only in the league for 9 years.
Brady
So him being on the
Anthony
him being on the
Munoz
60s and 70s
many's
all
Brady
decade
on?
team is really impressive.
Jeez.
I mean,
Brady's on at least 2, right?
Yeah, Brady's probably on 2.
Or is he?
he has to. He should be.
Yeah,
He will ever be on 3 of those.
No.
Yeah.
not chance.
Munoz has been on 2. I don't know who else has though. That's really impressive.
Brady.
Yeah.
I
I think that's
Brady.
what did it for me is the fact that he played 9 years and was on 2 decade teams
Yeah.
and also revolutionized the linebacker position.
Brady could end up being on 3 because I mean
He's not going to be on 3.
I'm just saying he could.
He should not be on the
He
2020s.
should not be on the
all-decade.
He threw like 40 some odd touchdowns and won a Super Bowl early on. So
Yeah, in 1 year. A decade.
So
10
the
years
people,
old.
so
Just saying.
notable people who have been on two all-decade teams were Larry Allen, Warren Sapp, Jerry Rice, Bruce Smith, Reggie White, Ronnie Lott, Walter Payton, Jack Lambert, Bob Lilly, Dick Butkus, guys like that.
Yeah, those are all some of the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, for sure.
All of those are all-time greats. Pretty sure all of them are Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
Everybody on this
I
list.
feel like we just have to give Dick Butkus his flowers.
Yeah.
I couldn't not leave him off of this, so I have him at 4. But I'm glad that you mentioned Junior Seau, because I thought we were about to go this whole segment without even bringing up
I
his
love
name.
Junior Seau.
Yeah, and Junior Seau was also, he's one of my favorite NFL players ever.
He's a legend.
Yeah, so I'm glad we brought him up.
Then he went to the damn Patriots.
Yeah.
They played for Chargers, then Dolphins, then Patriots.
All right, our last position group.
For me, this was by far the hardest.
Defensive backs. So
so
defensive
hard.
backs, we're doing corners and safeties.
1 and 2, I think, are kind of easy, but after that, it's
Yeah. So if we're missing a corner or a safety, that's why.
We are sorry.
Because there's only 4 spots.
Yeah.
probably needs to be a lot of asterisks.
There needs to be a lot of other spots for this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I feel like this.
Narrow
is-
it down. I did 2 corners and 2 safeties.
I think I had that as well, but like not on purpose.
Oh, I have 2 corners, 2 safeties.
I do not.
I kind of do.
He
Yeah.
has all safeties. No, I'm
No,
just
I
kidding.
don't have safeties.
I'm just kidding. All right, Peyton, we'll start with you again.
Number 1, it's Ronnie Lott. All pro at every position in the backfield, the greatest DB of all time. Free safety, strong safety, and corner. You have to do it. Anchored those 49ers teams on defense. I think it has to be Ronnie Lott at number 1.
I also have Ronnie Lott.
Dude, I'm not be the only one not having them.
8-time first-team All-Pro, 10-time Pro Bowler, won 4 Super Bowls with the Niners. He has over 1,100 tackles, 63 picks, 16 forced fumbles. I mean, he was a freak athlete. Could play safety and corner. He had a very high IQ for the position. I mean, he just did it all at the defensive back. I think when you think of defensive back, you think of Ronnie Lott. I mean, he just did it all.
Gave up his finger.
Yeah. Yeah. You do that.
That did happen. That did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've also got Ronnie Lott at 1. Like you said, all pro on
All pro at every
All-Pro
every
at
position
every
in the
single
backfield.
position in the backfield. That
Which
is
is safety and
insane.
corner.
Safety, corner.
No,
Free safety,
strong, free,
safety.
and corner.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Very versatile.
If we had like a corner and a safety like thing, I would have a different person at number 1 at corner.
Yeah.
Because he's technically counts as
But because it's just DB, it has to be Ronnie Lott,
Yeah,
I think.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be different, like our slogan, and I went with Deion Sanders because personally, when I think of defensive backs, I think of Deion Sanders. That's just me personally. The man played a NFL and an MLB game in the same day. I think he is one of the best athletes to ever play the sport. 8-time Pro Bowler, 2 Super Bowls, 1-time Defensive Player of the Year. I think his resume is pretty dang good. It's not as good as Ronnie Lott's, obviously, because he doesn't have that whole Pro Bowl at every position.
Well, yeah,
all
all
pros.
pro in every
All-Pro.
position.
Yeah.
But
Big
But I mean, that's just for me personally. I really like Deion Sanders. He was prime time. He was something different. He was the best corner of all time,
Without a doubt.
without a doubt. I'm pretty sure he was an absolute star on every team he played for. I mean, I know he was for the Falcons and the Cowboys, and I don't even know who else he played for. But I don't know. That's just me personally. When I think of defensive backs, I think of Deion Sanders just immediately. So I'm going to be different. And for reference, I do have Ronnie Lott at 2.
Yeah. That would be criminal if you didn't.
Yeah, that would be criminal if you didn't.
But that's my take on both of them. So there you go.
Valid points.
Valid.
I got a little
But
worried.
still wrong.
I got a little worried there because I assumed you would have Deion Sanders because me and you normally think alike. So I thought you'd have Sanders. So when you said Ryan Lott, I was like, oh crap!
You are all
You guys are
over.
gonna crucify me here. I was like, now I'm gonna get crucified, but I don't know.
That is an L take.
I don't think anyone
I don't
would
think
get
it's
mad at
really
you
an
for
L
saying-
take,
Yeah.
I'm just
but
joking.
like, I
I'm
mean,
just
I see both takes.
I'm just joking. We like difference here.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 2, I got Deion. For all the same reasons. Crazy athlete. Yeah.
Yep. I also have Deion at 2. I mean, 8-time Pro Bowler, 513 career tackles, 53 interceptions. I mean, he was prime time. When you think of
Prime time, man.
When you think of a corner, you think of Deion Sanders.
Iconic.
He is arguably the best athlete of all time in any sport. I mean, he played baseball, played football,
in the same day.
Which is nuts. I mean, his off the field just like presence is huge. I mean, he just had it all, and he was something we had never seen
prime time
before.
on and off the field.
Yeah, just something we had never seen before. So
in a Super Bowl and a World Series.
yeah.
Yeah, I like Deion Sanders a lot. For me, that was that was just my. I mean, honestly, that was a given for me. Like when I did DBs, I was like Deion Sanders is one.
It makes sense. Did
I
Deion
understand.
have to get
I
his-
do understand.
He was the first guy that came to my mind, but when I thought about it, I was like,
Yeah.
not right.
Did he have to get his Did he end up actually like getting his like foot amputated?
I think they're still discussing it. But
Wait, really?
Yeah, because he has like blood clots. Because remember he had his toe. He had to like amputate his toe.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are amputating stuff.
Might amputate his
All
foot.
these
I don't know.
DBs, man.
Hey, but now he's Coach Prime.
Coach Prime.
yeah.
He's gonna win like 2
Colorado
games.
Buffaloes.
Yes, sir. Should have came to Cincinnati, man.
Yeah, he has an interesting way of coaching, but
I like it.
I mean, he basically
athletes like
came
it.
he basically came into the locker room of Colorado and said, "You all are gone." He's like,
Which is
he's
what
like,
they need.
I'm bringing
because
my
they
own
were
guys.
completely awful.
Yeah, they didn't win a game.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
He
think
basically
that's-
came in and said, "Hey, get better or get out."
I think that is
Basically, yeah.
completely valid.
And I think almost all of them got out.
Yeah.
So
Which is what they needed.
yeah. And hey, his son's going to be in the league next year. Shador is probably going to get drafted.
I keep hearing that he's supposed to be one of the better quarterbacks in the class.
He's legit.
Yeah.
So Sanders is coming back.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Good family of football players.
absolutely. I mean, he has both of his sons are in college right now. But,
Yeah.
So,
Good stuff.
For me, it wasn't as clear cut at 2 as you all
man.
make it seem. I have Rod Woodson at 2
Over Deion Sanders?
over Deion. It was so close to the point where I'm looking at both of their resumes right now. And we're gonna compare because I have Deion at 3, so I don't think we have to spend too much time. Rod Woodson was an 11-time Pro Bowler. Deion was an 8-time Pro Bowler. Rod Woodson was a 3-time second-team All-Pro. Deion was a 2-time second-team All-Pro. They both have the same amount of first-team All-Pros at 6, and Deion has one more Super Bowl. I also feel like Deion got beat a lot more than Rod Woodson did, especially in deep coverage. I feel like Deion.
probably true, yeah.
I feel like Deion is the more flashy player, but in terms of consistency and reliability, I'm gonna take Rod Woodson over Deion.
He's more of a lockdown corner.
Yeah,
Probably.
and I feel like Deion gets propped up a little bit more because of what he did on special teams. But we're not talking about special teams. We're talking about defensive backs. And I feel like Rod Woodson was a better defensive back, a more consistent defensive back than Deion was. So I'm going to have
these
him
are all
at 2.
good points.
very good.
I have Rod Woodson at 3.
Same.
Rod Woodson at 3.
Yeah. I mean, he was the Deion Sanders before Deion Sanders.
He's also
I think they played in the same era.
he's also third in
I mean,
the NFL in picks
Deion,
too,
let's
all
see.
time.
Deion came in
pretty
89 and
good.
retired
Yeah.
in 2005. Rod Woodson came in 87 and retired in
he basically
2003.
he was doing what Deion was doing, just with less flair.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 71 picks, over 1,000 tackles, 13 and a half sacks, which is crazy. 11-time Pro Bowler. I mean, you hit it all. I mean, he's phenomenal tackler. I mean,
He
obviously
has just as
he's-
many accolades, if not more,
Yeah,
in less time.
yeah, and I mean, with him also being like a shutdown corner, like he was also used a lot in blitz packages. Like 13 and a half sacks as a corner, and it, like as a career is pretty impressive. So I mean, probably one of the best blitzers from the DB position.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you take all of that account, I could definitely see your argument with him at 2. But yeah, I have him at 3.
He's my
You have him at 3. You have him at 3.
Yeah,
I have Deion at 3.
Deion at 3.
Okay, we're in agreement. Then.
There we go.
Top 3.
All right, number 4,
I feel as though we're all going to agree on 4.
maybe.
It's tough.
There's 2 guys, and I am going to decide between them right now.
I am too.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go first then. I have Ed Reed. Safety, 9 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl. He was on the Ray Lewis one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Defensive Player of the Year. He had 64 picks, so that's I can't do math. What is that? 7 shy of Rod Woodson, which is Woodson was 3rd in the league. So I mean that's 64 picks. That's a lot. That's a lot of career picks.
Woodson had 71.
Yeah.
And Reed
had 64.
Best ball hawk.
So and he was the best ball hawk for sure. So I thought, I mean, I had to do a little bit of research, but he's my 4.
If you ever hear Belichick and Brady talking about the best defenders they had to play too, it's Ed Reed.
Ed Reed
is the name they always say.
Yeah, I mean, the Ed Reed stories are crazy.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Coming from those two guys, yeah.
Have you heard, there was that play too with Peyton Manning where he faked him out, looked at the wrong side of the field and got Peyton to throw the ball in his pretty crazy, like mind games he was doing.
Yeah.
I can't really decide between him and I want to put Dick Lane on there too as a legacy pick.
Night Train Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
insanely
he was
dominant
close.
as
He
a
was
DB
close.
at a really early point in the NFL. Like it was tough. I'll go Ed Reed though. I think I'll go Ed Reed.
I do think that one other thing you do have to slightly consider with Night Train Lane is the fact that receiver competition at that point in time was so much worse than it is now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Respect to
But
eras.
I mean,
and
yeah,
stuff.
Night Train Lane is definitely like top 5 for sure. But
Good. He's probably 5.
Yeah.
I mean, for my
If
list.
he's not 4, he's 5.
Yeah.
No one
I
was
would put
doing
him at
what he was
5.
doing.
At-
I would put him at 5. Would be for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right at 4, I have Sauce Gardner. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I have Ed Reed. I mean, you guys hit it. 5-time All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler, 643 career tackles, 64 picks, 13 defensive touchdowns, 11 forced fumbles. I mean, he played safety like a shutdown corner. I mean, he was a key. He was really good at run defense, good ball hawking. I mean, he brought it all at the safety position. So, I mean, that team with him and Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs, we talked about it, is one of the best defenses, and he was the catalyst for it. And I feel like it's like you see it more now, where like players like talk about Ed Reed and how just dominant he was, like you both mentioned about with like Belichick and Manning and them. So I think Ed Reed goes here at 4.
He was everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll be different. I'll have Night Train Lane at 4. It's so hard between those two because like Night Train Lane was doing insane revolutionary things.
He was the first.
Position. Yeah. But I mean, you talked about the mind games Ed Reed would play at that position were just ridiculous. I think what gives me Night Train Lane over Ed Reed is the fact that I think corner is a harder position to play than safety is.
It definitely is, for sure.
But then you balance it out with like the receiving competition that Ed Reed and like the quarterbacks that he would have to play are so much better than Dick Lane would play. I think it's whatever you prefer, but I'll be different, and I'll have Night Train Lane at 4. But Ed Reed is right there.
I'm glad he chose to be different.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was about to audible and say Ed Reed, but I was about to be like, we have the same list.
I almost did.
Yeah.
I mean, Night Train Lane is like the foundation for like the corner. Like
Yeah,
that's
for
like
sure.
he was like the first.
He was also
great
undrafted.
corner.
Yeah.
Undrafted Hall
Arguably
of
best
Fame corner.
offensive, or arguably best undrafted player in NFL history.
Yeah.
I just think it would be interesting. I'm not like saying this to knock him or anything, but I think it'd be interesting to put a DB from that age in today's age and just
See how they stand up.
see how they'd stand up.
Yeah.
Because like I guarantee you they weren't going up against Jefferson's, Chase's,
Stephon
Adams,
Diggs, A.J. Brown.
Diggs.
Well,
Tyreek Hill.
If you put those receivers back in that era too, they get bumped.
Yeah.
and they wouldn't
Because wasn't it back in those days like you could bump like
you,
right off
well
the
you
line?
you could kill each other.
If you watch Mel Blunt highlights, like he just kills people.
Yeah,
as soon as the
So there's that
There's
too.
no, like,
but
5-yard
I mean,
distance
I think
where you can touch
I think
somebody,
if
like,
you
just
put some of the guys from this era and that area, they won't be as effective because of the contact. But if you put guys from that era and this era, then they will be as effective just because of the
Yeah.
speed.
Which I mean, it's like the same thing in like the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, like you put people in like because I feel like
Just a different era.
and all the older eras it was more like hard nosed,
More
like
aggressive,
aggressive and physical.
I mean, because
Now it's kinda
he
shied
played.
away.
I mean, Night Train Lane played in the era where you could decapitate quarterbacks. Too.
Well, yeah, because he played in like the
So, I
he
mean,
played in like the 50s
yeah.
and 60s.
So that was like when football was like murdering each other. So I
Yeah.
mean,
I forget. Oh, I was watching.
That was when football
I was watching.
football.
I was watching Bruce Smith highlights, and he's like, you know why I love football? It's one of the only sports where I make millions of dollars and get to just pound some heads into the ground. And he was like, without getting arrested. I was like, yeah, that's true.
That's fair.
That's
You
why a
can
lot of people
assault
like
people
football.
without-
Yeah, he was like, I can assault people and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Legal assault.
Yeah.
It is legal assault.
With pads on.
With that, yeah. Also, another funny thing I just remembered there's that video, wasn't it? Chad Ochocinco tried to crack block
Yes.
Ray Lewis.
I consider bringing that up when we discuss
And
Ray
then,
Lewis.
and then he goes, "That was Ray." He goes, I tried to crack block Ray. It didn't work.
He got flat.
He just got.
Ray Lewis didn't even flinch. He ran right.
I don't
through
even
him.
think Ray Lewis even looked at him.
No, that's what I'm saying. He
Just dropped him and moved on.
I think he just went, and he was on the
Like,
ground.
yeah.
Like, that clip's hilarious.
I think there's some honorable mentions we have to say.
Yeah. For
Also,
the DBs.
we're talking about competition played against Darrelle Revis.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Revis
The
Island.
prime receivers he played against in lockdown.
Was
is
it
insane.
2009 where he had
Yeah.
arguably the greatest single season by a DB ever
Revis Island.
in terms of the competition
He
he
shut
went
down
against?
Steve Smith, Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, everyone.
Yeah,
Everyone. was
all the
shut down.
top receivers in the league he went up against, and they didn't get more than 30 yards.
They didn't do
against him.
anything.
It was ridiculous. Mel Blount too. I
Yep,
feel like
Mel
needs
Blount.
to be mentioned. We just alluded to him, but I feel like we ought to talk about what he did.
Yeah, I mean he's seen more of as an intimidator that just killed people in the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
More than a skilled cornerback.
Yeah.
But you could put him in your top 5.
He was
or whatever.
effective when he played,
Yeah.
and that's what really matters.
You can't knock him for being effective at the position.
Yeah.
There, he was, I mean,
I'd like the Darrelle Revis honorable mention though.
it was
We all saw Darrelle Revis at his peak.
Yeah.
maybe we'll
he
see
really-
Sauce
it
do it
really
again,
was
but
the-
I don't think anyone else will do something like that again. We'll see what Sauce does.
Yeah.
Sauce has got a pretty good
Potential.
start.
Yeah, he's off to a good start.
He's
for
off.
sure.
Yeah, he's off to a good start on that. But no, yeah, that was Revis Island, man.
Yeah.
He locked down everybody.
Yeah.
I think one player to mention, not for his overall play as a safety, but just how interesting he was used, is Troy Polamalu. He was basically he was basically just used as a linebacker, but he was a
Yeah.
safety.
But he was really, really
But he
good
was
in coverage.
Yeah,
Troy Polamalu was a freaking stud, man.
yeah.
I didn't even,
was.
like,
He's
I
worth a
didn't
mention.
think about
Also, one of the most humble,
Yeah,
absolutely.
superstars ever.
I-
It shouldn't really matter, but I just wanted to.
Yeah.
I did. I like Troy Polamalu. I like.
There are stories of him flattening dudes and him tapping him on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, sorry about that." And the next play, he'd do it again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I don't like
Made
this.
a lot of people
Yeah.
mad.
The Steelers are about the only team in the NFL that I actually despise, but Troy Polamalu I like.
Yeah.
I like
Hey,
Troy
that's
Polamalu.
valid.
Yeah, I'm with you. There are many players in Steelers history that I can't stand, but Troy Polamalu is one of.
He is
not
not
of
one
those
of
guys.
those guys. He was. I didn't even think about him honestly, but he deserves a shout out for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was saying, I was asking my dad, and I was like, "What about Troy Polamalu?" I was like, "Isn't he a linebacker?" He's like, "No, he's a safety." But he basically
He was
played
basically a
he
linebacker.
basically a linebacker.
He played them both.
Yeah. So I feel like he was kind of one of the first ones to be basically a linebacker, but also safety,
Yeah, he played them both.
which is pretty impressive. I mean, I don't think he's
Charles Woodson too.
Yeah, Charles Woodson.
I mean, if we're
definitely
going, I
deserves
mean,
a shout
he was
out.
great in the NFL, and he was phenomenal in college as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is an NFL.
This is the
award.
Darrelle Revis thing I was talking about. Notable wide receivers held under 35 yards. Andre Johnson, Randy Moss twice, Marquez Colston, Terrell Owens twice, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith, Reggie Wayne, Chad Ochocinco.
That's some of the best wide receivers of all time.
Yeah.
And that
Those are the top. Those are some of the top 15 wide receivers of the decade.
Yeah.
They held them
It's
all
insane.
to under 30 yards.
I
in one
wouldn't
year.
say all time.
I mean, Terrell Owens and Randy Moss were on our
Yeah,
all-time.
those-
Andre Johnson was great back then.
Yeah,
too.
Andre Johnson's a
Yeah.
top
Prime
20
was.
receiver all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Revis
Insane.
Island was a real thing.
Yeah.
Insane.
Randy Moss twice in one season.
Crazy.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And that was Randy Moss was at his.
He wasn't at his apex, but he was still really darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he was
he
still
was
really
never-
good.
He was
He
never
scored
like.
like 30
He's still
touchdowns.
Randy
He was
Moss.
never bad
with the
but-
Patriots.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely when you got to mention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if we did safeties and corners, our list
It would,
would obviously
it would be different.
There'd be a lot more
For
people, but
time's sake,
Just had to get some
we
shout outs.
just combined them all.
for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this one. Let us know what you thought about our lists. Any players that you would change if you agreed with us. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like this video, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.